about to learn that the cozy comfort of your modern home is built on the skeletal remains of people who didn't survive their furniture. Welcome back to Chat History, where we explore the morbid truth behind the mundane objects you interact with every single day. Today, we're diving into the horrifying history of household items that were basically medieval torture devices masquerading as comfort. Let's start with something you probably have right now, in your home, within arm's reach. Your mattress. Sounds innocent enough, right? Well, the Victorian era would like to have a word with you about those cozy, spring-loaded death traps. See, before the 20th century, mattresses weren't filled with the hypoallergenic foam and memory gel we enjoy today. No. They were filled with whatever nature vomited up. Horsehair was a luxury option. Most people got straw, corn husks, or if you were really unlucky, hay that had already been partially digested by livestock. But here's where it gets truly grotesque. These organic materials, they decomposed inside your mattress while you were sleeping on it. And all those dead insects, dust mites, mold spores, and bacteria, they were basically throwing a house party in your bedroom sanctuary. The smell was so unbearable that entire families would literally become sick from sleeping on their own beds. Respiratory infections were rampant. People developed skin conditions that doctors couldn't explain because the root cause was the pillowcase they laid their head on every night. And we haven't even talked about the bed bugs yet. Oh yes, the phrase, "don't let the bed bugs bite," wasn't a cute nursery rhyme. It was a desperate parental warning about actual insects that would feast on your blood while you slept. Victorian families would lose children to diseases that started with bedbug bites that became infected. Some people died from the resulting infections, all because their mattress was essentially a biohazard container shaped like comfort. Now let's talk about furniture that wanted to actively murder you. The Victorian sofa, that gorgeous, ornate piece of sitting furniture that graced every respectable drawing room. It was a biological weapon. These sofas were upholstered with the finest fabrics stretched over frames that trapped moisture, dust, and decay. But the real killer was the horsehair stuffing combined with the fact that Victorians had a pathological fear of ventilation. They sealed their windows shut to keep out the bad air, which they called miasma. Little did they know they were actually protecting the bad air already inside their furniture, allowing it to mutate and multiply like a bacterial civilization thriving in a petri dish of their own living room. People would sit on these sofas for hours during social calls, breathing in whatever nightmare was percolating inside the upholstery. Tuberculosis, influenza, and a host of respiratory diseases spread through Victorian society like wildfire, and a significant portion of that transmission happened on sitting furniture. You'd go to a social gathering, sit on your host's sofa, come home with what was essentially a death sentence disguised as a cough. But we're just getting started, because we haven't discussed wallpaper yet. And believe me, this one will make your skin crawl. Literally, in the 1800s, wallpaper became the height of interior design fashion. Vibrant greens, rich reds, luxurious yellows covering every wall of your home, and it looked absolutely gorgeous. It was also slowly poisoning you to death. Vibrant dyes used in wallpaper manufacturing were often laced with arsenic. We're talking about one of the most toxic substances known to mankind, deliberately painted on every wall your family spent time near. As the wallpaper aged, arsenic would slowly release into the air. It would settle on dust particles, sink into fabric, contaminate your skin. Arsenic is a slow poison. It accumulates in your body over time. So the longer you lived in a home with arsenic-laden wallpaper, more of this deadly chemical your body absorbed. Symptoms started subtle: fatigue, nausea, digestive problems. People thought they had minor illnesses. By the time serious symptoms appeared, hair loss, skin lesions, neurological problems. The arsenic had already done catastrophic damage to their organs. Wealthy families were hit the hardest because they could afford the most vibrant, most beautiful wallpapers, which happened to contain the highest concentrations of arsenic. Ornate bedroom with the gorgeous emerald green walls, it was actively killing you and your children, and eventually your servants who had to live even longer in those poisoned rooms. Some historians believe that arsenic-laden wallpaper may have contributed to more deaths during the Victorian era than actual violence or warfare. Imagine that. You survive childbirth, you survive common diseases, you survive dangerous industries, killed by your interior design choices. Now let's discuss something that's supposed to make you clean: your clothing dyes. Before synthetic dyes became common in the early 1900s, Fabric dyes were created from natural sources, metals and minerals that were absolutely lethal. Mercury was a favorite. Cadmium, chromium, and lead were also popular choices for getting that perfect shade of blue or red. When you wore these clothes, the dyes would transfer to your skin. They'd seep through your pores. You'd be walking around essentially wearing a toxic coating. Laundry workers faced the worst exposure. They'd handle these clothes, get the dye particles on their hands, in their lungs, develop what became known as dyer's disease. Symptoms included tremors, neurological damage, and organ failure. Some dyers would go crazy, literally insane, from the mercury exposure, which led to the common phrase, mad as a hatter, since hat makers used mercury in their felting process. But everyone wearing those clothes was being exposed to a lesser degree. Chronic arsenic and lead poisoning from your favorite dress was just considered a normal part of existing. Let's move to the kitchen, because your cooking equipment was also trying to murder you. The cast iron cookware you might have in your kitchen now? The old versions were absolutely nightmarish. Not just because of the heavy lead-based paints sometimes used to decorate them, because cast iron itself would leach iron into your food at alarming rates. In moderation, dietary iron is good. In the quantities leaching from poorly maintained cast iron cookware, it was toxic. But the real killer in Victorian kitchens was the copper cookware. Gorgeous, reflective, conductive copper pots and pans that were perfect for cooking. Copper is toxic when ingested, as acidic foods were cooked in these pots, tomato-based sauces, vinegar, acidic fruits. The copper would leach directly into the food. Families would consume copper-contaminated meals multiple times a day for decades. Copper poisoning causes severe gastrointestinal distress, liver damage, and neurological problems. The symptoms were often mistaken for cholera or other common diseases of the era. Here's the kicker. Wealthier families ate more cooked foods more regularly, so they had higher exposure. The poor, eating more raw foods and fewer cooked meals, were actually safer. Poverty became an accidental life extension strategy. Then there's the beautiful ceramic dinnerware with those gorgeous hand-painted designs. Lead paint, lead glaze, lead leaching into every meal you consumed. Lead is a cumulative toxin. It accumulates in your bones and your organs and your brain. Causes neurological damage that's permanent and irreversible. Children were especially vulnerable because their developing brains were devastated by the exposure. An entire generation of children grew up with reduced cognitive abilities, behavioral problems, and shortened lifespans, all because someone thought it was aesthetically pleasing to paint their dishes with liquid poison. Your daily tea was served in lead-contaminated cups. Your daily bread was served on lead-contaminated plates. Children's breakfast porridge was served in bowls that were actively destroying their brain development. And nobody knew. The lead poisoning was so widespread and so normal that people didn't even realize it was happening. Let's talk about cosmetics. Because Victorian women were literally poisoning themselves in the pursuit of beauty. Lead-based face paints were considered essential for any respectable woman. They provided the pale porcelain complexion that was fashionable at the time. Arsenic was used in complexion powders. Mercury was used in skin lightening creams, which itself is absolutely horrifying on multiple levels. Women would apply these poisons to their faces daily. The lead would absorb through their skin. Mercury would seep into their bodies, and the neurological, reproductive, and organ damage would accumulate over decades. Women who used these cosmetics regularly developed severe health problems in their 30s and 40s. Infertility, miscarriages, stillbirths, and cognitive decline were common. The beautiful pale complexion that was supposed to signal wealth and status was actually a visible marker of heavy metal poisoning. And the women knew something was wrong, they just didn't know why. The worst part? Knowing that all of these death traps, the mattresses, the furniture, the wallpaper, the cookware, the dishes, the cosmetics, existed not because anyone was trying to kill people, but because the information about what was actually harmful simply didn't exist yet. Progress and prosperity came at a cost measured in human suffering and premature death. The objects we surround ourselves with now are exponentially safer. Our furniture doesn't harbor diseases. Our walls aren't slowly poisoning us. Our dishes won't destroy our brains. But for the people living through the Victorian era and the centuries before it, every single day involved a calculated risk with death, hidden in the most innocent places imaginable. Comfort we take for granted today, safe food, clean water, non-toxic materials, was literally purchased with the lives of everyone who came before us and discovered the hard way what shouldn't be in your home. If you made it this far, know the history behind the things we use every day, and that makes you more aware than most people walking around today. If you want to learn more horrifying historical truths that'll make you appreciate modern life, subscribe to Chat History. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.